Welcome back to Talk for Impact, where we connect big ideas with big hearts. This is episode 11 and the final episode in our business series, the most common grammar mistakes in business and leadership. I'm your host, Yaya, joined by Caroline.
Hello, everyone. And yeah, if this is your first time joining us, do check out the rest of the series. Today's episode is very practical and really essential, I think. Because, well, poor grammar, it can really weaken your credibility, it can blur your message, and, actually hurt your leadership presence quite a bit.
Absolutely. So today we're doing our deep dive format. We're looking at some source material that really digs into grammar, specifically for business and leaders.
Right. Not just grammar for grammar's sake.
Exactly. Not the academic stuff. Many people might think, oh, it's minor, spell check catches it. But the argument here is no for leaders. It's actually fundamental.
Yeah.
So our goal today is to go through this material, pull out the really critical insights, where things go wrong, why, and how you can fix it based on what the sources say.
And one of the first things that really jumps out from the material is how it frames grammar. It's not just rules, it's positioned as a core leadership competency.
Competency, yeah. That's a strong word for it.
It is. And it connects clear writing directly to clear thinking. That's the immediate link it makes.
That link feels really crucial. I mean, you think about effective leaders, right? Their messages seem to cut through. And the sources suggest that clarity isn't an accident. It implies that if your emails, your reports, whatever, are full of errors.
Yeah, even small ones.
It sends a signal, maybe unconsciously, about, well, lack of attention to detail.
Exactly. And the source material really pushes this point.
Yeah.
It can make even your best ideas seem less credible.
Right, because the underlying question becomes, if you're careless with the small stuff in communication,
can we trust you with the big strategic stuff? It's subtle, but it chips away at trust. Precision in language builds that trust.
And beyond just perception, there's the basic issue of clarity, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. The material we looked at really hammers this home. A misplaced comma, the wrong word, like affect versus effect. It can completely change the meaning.
Or just make it fuzzy.
Totally fuzzy. And in business, ambiguity isn't just annoying. It's costly. Leads to mistakes, wasted time.
Yeah. So leadership communication just has to be clear. Doesn't matter if it's an email, a Slack message, a formal report.
All platforms. And that precision, that clarity, it directly ties into influence. Your words are how you persuade, how you lead. The sources make it clear. Bad grammar creates friction. It makes your audience work harder. They have to stop, reread, figure out what you meant.
Instead of just getting the message.
Right. And that friction, it just undermines your authority, waters down your point.
So the big takeaway from the sources here is grammar isn't about being picky. It's fundamental to protecting your credibility, ensuring clarity, and maximizing your influence. These are not small things for a leader.
Not at all. They're huge.
Okay, so if these aren't small things, where do leaders most often stumble? The sources give us a really practical list, almost a checklist, right? The top 10 common grammar mistakes.
Yeah, this list is fantastic because it's not obscure stuff. It's the errors that pop up again and again in business writing and cause the most sort of distraction and confusion.
All right, let's walk through them. Using the examples right from the material. Number one, the classic confusion, your versus your.
Ah, yes. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? But it catches people constantly. So your shows possession. It belongs to you. Like, is this your coffee?
Right. And
that's just the contraction of you are. The source example is perfect. Wrong. You're the best. You see that and it just jars.
Yeah. It makes it look rushed or careless. The right way, obviously. You're the best.
Exactly. It immediately feels less polished, less professional if you get that wrong.
Okay. Number two is another pair that causes headaches. It's versus its.
Oof. Yes. This one's tricky because we normally use rets for possession, right? But it is the exception.
The exception, yeah.
It's with the apostrophe is always short for it is or it has. Like, it's raining.
Got it. And
it's without the apostrophe is the possessive. Belonging to it, like the company values its employees, the employees belong to the company.
So the sources boil it down. It's equals it is. It's equals possessive.
Right. And mixing them up can make sentences really awkward. Like, its potential is huge, just doesn't work when you mean its potential.
Yeah, throws the reader off. Okay, number three, the terrible trio. There, and there.
Probably the most common homophone mix-up, drives people crazy.
I bet. So the breakdown from the source,
Okay, there's usually about a place, put it over there, or it starts a sentence. There are 5 reports.
Mm-hmm.
There's possessive belonging to them. We reviewed their proposal.
Yep.
And there is simply the contraction for they are. They're meeting right now.
So the source summary, their dot place,
Oh,
their possession.
Exactly. And imagine getting a company memo saying, they're making changes over there because their plan isn't working. It just completely undermines the message.
Makes you focus on the mistakes, not the meaning. Okay, number 4 moves into word choice. Effect versus effect.
Another notorious pair. Sounds so similar. As the sources point out, effect with an A is almost always a verb. It means to influence or change something. How will this affect the budget?
Okay, the action word.
Right. An effect with an E is usually a noun. It's the result, the outcome. What was the effect of the change?
The result, so source breakdown. Effect verb, influence. Effect noun, result.
Precisely. And saying something like, the effect on morale was noticeable versus this will negatively affect morale. Using the wrong one can make you sound like you maybe don't quite grasp the basics.
Which isn't the impression you want to give. Number 5, subject-verb agreement.
This sounds technical, but it's fundamental, making sure the verb matches the subject in number. Singular subject, singular verb, plural subject, plural verb.
And the common business error, the source highlights.
Wrong. The results shows. Subject is results, plural. So the verb needs to be plural too.
Right. The results show.
Exactly. It often just sounds a bit off when it's wrong, Makes the writing feel clumsy, especially in reports with data.
Definitely. Number 6, misplaced apostrophes.
Right. Apostrophes have 2 main jobs, showing possession.
Like the client's needs for one client or the client's needs for multiple clients.
Perfect. And the other job is marking contractions, like it's or your.
But what's the common mistake?
Using them just to make a word plural, like writing, we sell widgets. That's a big no-no in professional writing.
The dreaded greengrocer's apostrophe.
Exactly. The sources use the client examples. Client's needs, plural, versus client's needs, singular. Getting this wrong, especially in contracts or formal documents, can cause real confusion.
Yeah, clarity is key there. Okay, number 7, incomplete comparisons.
This is a subtle but important one. It's when you use words like better, faster, more efficient, but you don't say, then what?
Right. The source example. Wrong. Our software is faster.
Faster than what? Your old version, your competitor, the industry average. It's vague.
It lacks punch. So the right way.
Be specific. Our software is faster than the leading competitors, or faster than our previous version. You need that comparison point for the statement to have meaning, especially in sales or marketing.
Makes sense. Number 8 is less about strict grammar rules, more about style and clarity. Overuse of buzzwords and jargon.
The sources flag this as a major clarity killer in business. We all know the words synergy, leverage, bandwidth, paradigm shift.
Circle back, low-hanging fruit.
Exactly. Sometimes jargon is needed shorthand within a team, fine. But overdoing it makes you sound, well, maybe insincere or just unclear.
Yeah, like you're hiding behind empty phrases.
Right. The sources stress using clear, accessible language. Connect with people, don't alienate them with jargon.
Good advice. Number 9, back to sentence structure. Comma splices.
Very common, especially in emails written quickly. This is when you join 2 complete sentences, 2 independent clauses with only a comma.
What's the source example?
Wrong. We met the deadline, the client was happy. Those are 2 separate thoughts, 2 potential sentences.
So how do you fix it?
You need something stronger than just a comma. You could use a comma and a conjunction like and, but so. We met the deadline and the client was happy. Or a semicolon. We met the deadline, the client was happy. Or just make them 2 separate sentences. We met the deadline, the client was happy.
Okay, using just the comma makes it feel like a run-on sentence.
Exactly. It feels grammatically shaky.
And finally, number 10, redundancies.
This is about trimming the fat, Using unnecessary words that repeat the meaning. Wastes time, makes writing less sharp.
Like the examples the sources give.
Classic ones. Free gift. Well, a gift is free.
Right.
Past history. History is always in the past. Close proximity. Proximity means closeness.
So just say gift, history, nearby.
Exactly. Cut the redundancy. It makes your communication tighter, more professional, shows you value the reader's time.
That's a fantastic list. Really practical stuff that you see all the time. It definitely highlights how that attention to detail isn't just, academic nitpicking.
Not at all. It's about clear, effective business communication.
And building on that, the sources also pointed out specific situations or contexts where getting these grammar details right is absolutely critical for leaders.
Yes, absolutely. It identified those high-stakes moments where your communication is really under the microscope.
What were some of those?
Things like emails to executives.
Yeah.
You definitely want those polished.
Makes sense.
Public speeches or statements, obviously huge visibility there.
Yeah, errors get amplified.
Social media posts, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly now. Even short posts reflect on you and the organization.
Right, they live forever.
And internal communications, too. Things like important employee memos or, crucially, performance reviews.
Wow, that's a broad range from very public to very internal and personal.
It is. But the implication from the source material is clear. In all these areas, your language is being judged. An error in a public statement damages reputation.
And an error in a performance review.
It could undermine the feedback, seem unprofessional, maybe even disrespectful. It just erodes the seriousness of it.
So it all comes back to that credibility and leadership presence we talked about at the start. These aren't just information exchanges, they're moments where your competence is judged.
Exactly. Imagine getting a big company announcement full of typos or basic grammar errors. Does that fill you with confidence about the leadership behind it?
Not really. It suggests carelessness.
So the sources argue precision in these contexts isn't just nice, it's necessary to maintain respect and effectiveness.
Okay, so we know the common mistakes, we know where they matter most. How do we actually get better? The sources offer some practical tools and tips too, didn't they?
Yes, thankfully. It wasn't just about pointing out problems, it gave concrete steps for improvement.
Good. What was the first suggestion?
Embrace the tech. Use grammar checking tools. Things like Grammarly, Hemingway app, even the built-in Microsoft editor.
Are they foolproof?
No, definitely not. They won't catch everything, especially nuances of tone or context, but they are really good at flagging many of those top 10 errors we discussed. Think of them as a first line of defense.
Okay, a helpful first pass. What else?
A really simple, low-tech technique: read your writing out loud.
How does that help?
It forces you to slow down. You hear the words differently than when you just scan them silently. You're much more likely to catch awkward phrasing, run-on sentences, missing words, things your eyes just skip over.
I can see that. Makes you process it differently.
Totally. And then there's the classic advice. Get a second pair of eyes. Ask a trusted colleague, maybe an assistant, to proofread really important stuff before it goes out.
Yeah, we all get blind spots with our own writing.
We really do. Someone reading it fresh who doesn't know what you meant to say is invaluable for catching genuine errors or ambiguities.
Definitely. Anything else?
One more strategy the sources mentioned was keeping a personal error list.
What does that mean?
Basically, pay attention to the mistakes you tend to make. Are you always mixing up its and its? Do you sometimes create comma splices when you're writing fast?
Identify your own common tripwire.
Exactly. Make a little list, maybe just 2 or 3 things. Then, before you send anything important, specifically check for those errors. It makes proofreading more targeted and manageable.
That's smart. Focus your effort where you need it most.
Right. It turns improvement from this huge, vague goal into something concrete you can work on.
Those are really actionable steps. Makes improving feel much more achievable. Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. Looking back at our deep dive into this source material on grammar for leaders, we started with why it matters so much, right?
Yeah, moving beyond just rules to seeing it as fundamental for professionalism, credibility, clarity.
And influence. Huge factors for any leader.
Absolutely. Then we got really practical with that top 10 list of common mistakes.
Going through your versus your, effect versus effect, comma splices, all those common pitfalls with real examples.
Showing how those errors actually undermine the message in a business context.
Then we looked at where this matters most, those high-stakes situations, emails to the boss, public statements, even internal reviews.
Right, the touch points where your leadership communication is really on display and being judged.
And finally, we covered the practical ways to improve, drawn directly from the sources.
Using tools, reading aloud, getting proofreaders, and that personal error checklist. Actionable stuff.
Yeah. The overall message from the sources seems incredibly strong. This seemingly small topic, grammar, it actually has massive implications for how you're perceived as a leader and how effective your communication is.
Huge effects, exactly. It's not really about achieving grammatical perfection, nobody expects that, but it is about reducing that friction, making sure your message lands clearly, credibly, powerfully.
Which leads to a really good question for you, the listener, to reflect on. Thinking about your own communication, Which of those top 10 errors maybe resonate? Which ones might be sneaking into your work?
Or thinking about those high-stakes contexts, emails, presentations, feedback, where could focusing a little more on grammatical precision give you the biggest boost right now?
Just considering that is probably a really powerful starting point for making your communication even sharper.
Definitely.
Thank you for joining us for this final episode in the business series. We hope this journey gave you the clarity, structure, and confidence to lead with strategy and heart.
And don't worry, this isn't the end of Talk for Impact. It's just the beginning of new themes, deeper insights, and more voices. Stay tuned for our next series, where we explore communication, productivity, and lifelong learning in a rapidly changing world.
Until then, write clearly, lead wisely, and always keep making an impact.